Okay, it looks like we're on air now. Thank you for everybody that showed up. I've been having a little bit of trouble getting this thing to work for me. So thanks for bearing with me. Today's the Sunday morning podcast as usual. Today we're going to be discussing suicide, different types of suicide, the mindset of suicide. There's more of a cynical social undertones and programs that are based on ideas like getting gaslighted and maintaining men have to sacrifice. And there I go again doing that. Okay. I always end up screwing up on that first. I forget to switch off. So we were talking about male suicide today and the mindset. It sets men up to fail. It makes men into utilities and victims of altruistic suicide. Suicide has been described as a silent epidemic, but is it really a silent epidemic? It's something that we all know of. It's something we all hear of. We all see the high incidences of male suicide and substantial contribution to men in their mortality. The silence can be caused by lack of public awareness, empathy, lack of research and funding. It's a blaming thing. What they're saying in most articles that I read, that it's men's own problem. It's men's own fault because they fail or they're reluctant to go seek help for their suicide, and that's something I see as blaming men. And where will men go? Uh, how men get to these places where they can go find help. I think it's simply the latter three: lack of public awareness, lack of empathy, and lack of research funding. Uh, Today I got in heartburn, and he's gonna be in here in a few minutes. And Misanthrope Altruist, is it?
Misanthropic altruist.
Misanthropic Altruist. So what do you think about what's really going on in the public eye with male suicide? Because it can't be that we're just reluctantly refusing to get help.
I don't think, well, I think both culturally and in the field of psychology and psychiatry, uh, it's weird. It's a weird game, and it's not really set up for how it's, touted as being. I think it markets one way and it actually behaves in a different way altogether. You know,
Yeah, yeah. We often hear that we have to project female feelings and emotions when we do ask for help, or else it won't be perceived as we really need the help. And men are very much different. We're not going to project female emotions. We're not going to project them things they want to see from us. We're going to implode into ourselves, and that there is a recipe for suicide, isn't it?
well, check this out. I mean, I don't know if you the last time you might have been in a psychologist or a psychiatrist's office, but if you do find the means to make it even a man's, a male psychologist or psychiatrist, when you walk in the office 9 times out of 10, one of the first things you'll be greeted by is a picture of him and his family at the table. And I think, in a really weird way, that's inappropriate. And that's actually like it's a mini transaction of what they call transference. Like here, I'm good. This is my family. Everything's all happy. And I think that's kind of inappropriate. I think personally, everything of their person should be gone, so that you walk in on a blank slate and you don't automatically size yourself up against that other man that is supposed to be helping you. So.
Yeah, I've seen that myself. I've seen it when I've seen my counselor in points. Hello, Zeta.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you today?
Yes, yeah. We were talking about suicide today, and
Yes, just catching up here, Joe. So, yeah,
yeah.
good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hey, how you doing, Misanthropic?
I'm all right.
Good
How are
stuff.
you?
So you were in the middle of a discussion there. I'll just backstep for a sec.
Yeah, it's on Traversable now. So.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I
Okay.
was. We look at that. I've noticed that too. I walk in, and all of a sudden I see a picture of this happy family, and then what I did notice this in my counsel years ago, after my divorce and subsequential downfall in life, that I looked up and there was religious statues and stuff like that,
Or the
and
kitty picture that says "Hang in there."
hang in there, yeah, silly little stuff. And you know what I wanted to talk about? I wanted to talk about the uniqueness of the tree he had out in front of his window, and he couldn't go with me on anything. I mean, it was so impersonal that that's what we ended up talking about. The uniqueness of the tree. It was a paper maple, I think, and it's kind of a weird thing to see a paper maple in the fall shedding its and that's what caught my interest instead of talking about why I was depressed and why I was feeling this way.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, the field is really, it's ravaged with inconsistencies. Like, personally, I view all of it as a soft science, and so I automatically had that judgment going in every time I've ever gone in. And I've been aware that it was a soft science going back to like when I was 16 years old, probably the first time I went in. And so when you know it's a soft science, and then you actually get this sense of like, wow, this is kind of like a form of prostitution.
yeah,
This is like mental friendship prostitution, you know?
yeah.
And it gets really weird, you know? So, and it's hard to open up. And then if you dare to study psychology via academically or even on your own, you kind of fuck yourself, because when you go in there, you may or may not, you're going to understand techniques and methodologies that are being tried, and I think that interrupts your treatment. And if they sense it, you can almost get, a little bit of hostility back. Like, oh, you think you know what, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, yeah. The immediate intake process is very weird too, isn't it? Usually get a hotline number, and
Yep.
then a hotline number is going to immediately betray you and try to find out your address and send send an ambulance to your house. I've noticed that with many men that called those things, and then all of a sudden you're labeled as a mental defective, aren't you?
Yeah. I actually called one of the suicide prevention lines around 18, and SWAT team ended up at my house.
Yeah, yeah,
That
stuff like
wasn't
that.
very fun.
Oh yeah, can you imagine if there was a little hostility and anger with an older man, or if he had some weapons in his house or something? That would have automatically turned into they would have called it suicide by police.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm. So there's a lot of there's barriers, isn't there?
And now, so I think it's a different experience even from when I was younger and I had, deep depression and whatnot. Now I'm actually traversing it through via my daughter, because she's what they would call a trauma child, and she's been diagnosed a variety of things. But anyway, I'm in this system. I'm guiding her through the system, or I don't know if this system's guiding me. It's hard to tell, but it's a different animal altogether. And I don't know. It's really confusing. The entire, and I think it's meant to be confusing. Now it's hardcore medication.
Okay,
Even if
yeah.
you end up going to counseling, everybody, it's a business, and that's what it boils down to. And once you make humans trying to connect to other humans a business, all bets are off.
All bets are off, right? Yeah, they're trying to reduce the population coming into the hospitals now too, so they'll make it intentionally hard to navigate. And I get that we'll give you a phone call to hear, or there's going to be a 22-step process where you can actually get the help that you need. Uh, and in your case, your daughter, you're trying to navigate with it, and it's good that you have some experience with that. And I often find tell them the bare minimum, because they're gonna go off on thoughts other places than with the actual help you need. They're gonna take it way over here or way over there. So give these people the bare minimum, and you have to tell them exactly what they need.
Well, I can tell you, and I know it's kind of off from male suicide, but one of the programs that my daughter is in, I'm finding it increasingly difficult to shut up. And what I mean by that is because a lot of part of the program is all about validation of victimhood and not moving past
Oh,
that.
Yeah.
yeah, the
All
feminine
about
thing.
victimhood. And the reason why it's about victimhood, it's really weird. It's almost like they're trying to suggest there's an empowering. They're like, well, she's acting this way because, of this and that, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. But when do we get to the part where she's empowered? When do we get to the part where it's about survival? When do we get to the part that there's accountability and agency? When do we get to those parts? And when I ask those questions, I'm usually met with a blank stare, and then they change the subject.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've had that same experience years ago too, as well. And did you go through did they give you questionnaires? Okay, well, here's a couple of handouts. It's on cognitive behavior therapy. Just fill in the blanks, and we'll review it again next week, kind of thing.
Yeah. One size fits all for every family and every dynamic.
One size fits all for everything. CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and and let's talk about it next week. Okay, fill those out, and I mean, what is this? Are we going to class here, or what?
The funnest part is that if money-wise you can't actually afford a top-notch male shrink, you're going to be stuck with postgraduates, or even not even postgraduates. Basically, you're going to be stuck with 18-year-old chicks. Seriously,
yeah,
18-year-old females
who's just gotten out of college, got her degree at a bachelor's level in psychology, okay, and put her in front of a 54-year-old suicidal man, okay, and this is the thing. If the guy says, and here's the thing, and maybe it's because it's in Canada. Please, anybody who's Canadian out there can back me up on this. But if you say something, if you go in for therapy and you go, I'd like to speak with a man, oh, this guy's misogynist. That's it. So we're going to have to treat this guy for being a misogynist.
The opposite's not true. If a woman comes in and asks for a woman, she's like, oh, we totally
open doors, man. Open doors, and red carpet treatment through and through. But for guys, if you were to make that statement, you're not going to go anywhere, man.
So I think maybe it is that we're not welcome.
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah.
Anyways, they got me riled up there. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's okay. They got a following a gynocentric system that's catered to women. We can look and we can see there's 44,000 programs for women, and there's 3 programs for men: child support, prison, and pretty much mental health, which is another imprisonment. But these things,
it is an imprisonment when you're paying $160 for a 50-minute hour, okay? And then you come back next week. Oh, I'm sorry, what were we talking about? Didn't you read your fucking notes? And try challenging them. You're right there, misanthropic.
One of the last things that actually a recent counselor that I've dealt with was like, she paused for a moment and says, "You're so articulate. Why don't you go back to school?" Are you fucking kidding me, bitch?
Yeah, exactly. Mine was, ooh, you write so well. Did you get the one about, write the letter to your mother, right? If you had mommy issues, or write a 15-page letter to your mom, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Back next week, let's review that. Oh, for fuck's sake! Sorry, guys.
I got the drop it in a God box. You write down what you wish would happen and drop it in a God box, and then that's like Penn's milk jug. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen, and maybe I did something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, is heartburn in yet?
Yeah, what's with heartburn there? He's got his mic off.
Yeah. Okay, he's probably having some mic problems. I think Messenger is going to be in, and Shining may be in. I can't really see the pages right now, so I'm stuck. I don't even have my app open. It won't even open.
Oh, you don't have? Can you see who's in the chat room and all? I mean, are you able to?
Yeah, I'm kind of terrified to switch the screen because it just goes out, and then I have to redo the whole thing.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get it now. Here's what it usually does. I move the screen over a little bit so I can see. Okay, yeah, Mgtow's in, Eric's in, Cyborg's in, Golden Eagle Owl, yeah, and Shining light's not on. So we are set with a specific a problem here of entry into the system, and then once we get into the system it's so gynocentrically set up that we don't understand it.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
I think there was one therapist I saw years ago, you know, because the three therapists that I saw, this was mostly in the 90s and right up into the early 2000s, okay? And I also had, I guess we can call them, with Joe and I have talked about it, 12-step training from the Alcoholics Anonymous, and I think we touched base on that too, Misanthrope,
Yeah.
right? You know, but, you know, the thing is, these... I just lost my train of thought. I'm so riled up about all this. Sorry, guys. um, yeah. Let me just regain my thoughts here.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, would it be safe to say that if males have had more spaces and, you know, safe spaces where they get together and talk freely, that there would be a need for us to even seek out medical professionals?
Right. I think that's real safe to say all our spaces are taken, even in this. Men generally don't want to get into the system. They don't want to be in a system. They want just somewhere they can go, work through their problems, talk with other men about what's happening. And that's a real barrier there, talking with
Yeah.
other men. They
Yeah.
don't want you talking with other men. I know how hard it was to get, when I looked around my area, a city of millions and millions of people, there was one male group that I could go to. And then I was stuck with, you know, one guy with bipolar problems, one guy with marital problems, one guy that was cheating on his wife with three women and didn't understand why he felt bad. And then there was another guy that may have generally had some of the problems I had. And but it was just a hodgepodge of just men thrown together instead of just an open forum like we're having here, which is really nice for men to go to.
And
You
that's
know,
all it takes. Yeah.
go ahead, Zeta.
Yeah, sorry. No, that's all it takes. And I think this is one of the key things that we have on Sundays. You know, guys in the chat room, please add. I've seen the regulars come here. Is that, you know, all it takes is one word, okay? If you or I or heartburn, you know, just goes off in a sentence. You know, one word can change a man's life forever. And I think that's what we got going here. And then that propagates, you know, onto another guy, right? And so on and so on. Because there's some real talk going on here. We don't pull punches in these talks, right? And you know, we've got enough of a history since March of this year. You know, we don't hold back here. We tell it like it is, and then some.
Well, I'll go ahead, and this might bite me in the ass later, but fuck it. I've been institutionalized twice.
Okay.
Both times I was, for whatever reason, roomed with schizophrenics.
Oh,
The first time I was roomed, and they were men. You know, the first male schizophrenic I was roomed with, he was mostly cool, real cool guy. We once got in a conversation, and I remember this really vividly because it was the first time I felt a different kind of compassion or empathy for another dude, for another
right.
human being, actually, to be
Yeah.
honest. What he said was, I don't want to be on my medication anymore because when I'm on my medication, the voices go away, and the voices used to help me. The voices are what, you know, because he was a biker, and he claimed that he could only work on bikes because the voices told him what to do. And without the medication, that part of his life was over.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Or with the medication, I'm sorry. And I
the
was like, when I heard that, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, are you serious? You know? Like,
yeah.
that's sad. That I don't know how to diagnose. I don't know the diagnosis, the prognosis with any of that. I think it's irrelevant. But the man's story was what he developed. He has this condition, and there's a pro and a con to it. And when he's over medicated, it strips away part of his identity, and that's not being addressed. You know?
Yeah, it's the immediate psychotropic drugs, you know, for boys, and that's where they go to. Like you said earlier, there's this pattern they follow. It's dissect, and then psychotropic drugs, and then there's this bridge to nowhere where, and you said that earlier. Where do I go from here? Now I know what's going on, but where do I go? And that's frustrating. It's you're let out on this bridge to nowhere where you're still trying to find out the same answers to the questions you were asking prior.
Yeah. I think one of the big things too is the reason why this field would be tempting for a lot of men to even attempt to engage, if they engage at all, is because something's been missed in our, if we have families, whether we have fathers, stepfathers, uncles, whatever, um, where we don't talk to them anymore in a real way. And maybe it's because there's new family dynamics because of cultural influences, and I don't know. I wouldn't guess. But if we feel like we can't talk to the men in our families or even, you know, friends of family, whatever, and there's something about that. Why is that the case? Why do men feel like they can't talk to their immediate, you know, father or stepfather or whatever? You know, and maybe because we see them, oh, well, you know, my stepfather, his marriage is shit, or, you know, oh, my dad left, he's not there, or, I mean, there's a lot of meat in why we are not talking to each other, you know, our immediate family, and that's part of the problem. If we don't have the default people to talk to, men to talk to, and we seek outside, you know, if we look in our peer group, there's going to be hit and miss with that. It really is, you know. You know, young men need elders that have been through shit to talk to them.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. I know I have a very large family, and I know what it's like out there for men in these families. We're emasculated, and that's purposeful. So we do the things in life that we're supposedly supposed to do. We're supposed to get married, get a job, do this, not talk about these things, and just work through them. But that's all the gynocentric just molding us and forming us so we can be let down at certain points. And that was the big question. This is we're all set up to fail in this thing, and once we do fail, how do we take that? Because all of our lives, it's sort of like gaslighting, isn't it? They gaslight us all our lives to have this, and they use this ongoing maintenance program on us to sacrifice, not think about ourselves, and then when we do fail, there's no answer to it.
Well, you said right there. It's one big, huge gaslighting project, you know, onto men, you know. But it's incomplete, and it's missing a lot of. It's in a huge gray zone, you know, to the point that it's you know, to what extent is it really helping men? I mean, you know, let's go back a couple of weeks, Joe, when we had Tom Golden on,
yes,
okay,
Tom.
And that example of, you know, the way men get together. You know, you got to have a fishing boat in there or something, right?
Yeah.
And we talk shoulder to shoulder, you know, as we're casting, right? And, you know, and we may not talk about poignant things, right? But this is where the bonding happens. We need to be doing shit, okay? And then eventually the conversation will follow, right? And, you know, and we got to put out these feelers, you know, can I go there? Can I not? You know, I mean, this is the way the human mind works. We have to size things up. But it's
I think the last two generations have had very little access to that as men.
Right.
I know that I haven't, you know, so I haven't had access with, you know, I won't get too deeply into it because I'm not going to throw them under the bus, but, you know, my immediate stepfather didn't have that kind of thing, you know.
Right.
And I think a lot of men that are of my age, and then certainly younger, the generation after me, I'm not hearing a lot of bonding experiences like that at all. So
no, it's been a gradually eroding thing, and you know, and yeah, we're a bunch of disenfranchised men. But I think what's happening is this is a huge part of Mgtow, okay? And I mean, for the 300,000 that are or so that are active right now, that's the main reason why we're getting together. You know, we have our social groups outside of what we have here online. You know, and obviously we have to project and deal with the masks, you know, when we're dealing with the outside. But when we're in here, in this space, man, a lot of things get said. You know, the real things get said. But this is how, I mean, this is part of the rebuilding of masculinity, and it starts with Mgtow.
Right. We're trying to get unfiltered again. Everything's filtered through the gynocentric. If it's not filtered through the gynocentric, it's perceived as being not useful in society. And these things that we need in our lives, male spaces, men's places to go, they're not useful to the gynocentric, the females. So they generally tend to throw a monkey wrench in these things that we have going, and we have to get back to
they throw monkey wrenches in there, Joe, but it's carefully disguised in order to live up to their filtering process.
Right,
That's it.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really what it's all about. Okay. And as a male, as a man, you need to experience the full fucking spectrum of who you are. Okay. And that's, and that's the other thing too, is that they've made it difficult for a man, if he so chooses and he gets to a point in his life or in his evolution, hey, I need to do this. It is not supported at all. Okay. And this is where we come in, because we're opening up the doors to every man and saying, hey, you can establish yourself, your own evolution, establish whatever program you want on your own terms, okay? And you will be supported, even if we don't understand what you're doing. We will support you if you're going to head in that direction.
Well, I have an interesting tale with that. I remember once early in therapy, I haven't been in myself in actual therapy in a long time, but when I was a kid, around the areas I was institutionalized or would come to be, I remember being in a session once, and I had just read this book called On the Road, and I was talking to the therapist. I'm like, I want to do that. That seems that's it. That's what I want. I want to do this now. And I was laughed at, scoffed at, and pretty much said, "Oh, well, don't take it too far. Be an individual, but don't travel the road like a bum."
Don't take it too far. Don't be yourself too much.
Yeah. And I don't know if any of you gentlemen have read that Road, but damn, that is a powerful story. I suggest all men read it, but that's just my opinion. So.
Sorry, it's called The Road?
On the Road by Kerouac.
Is that the one with the father and son?
Yeah.
That's the one with the guy from New York who travels to I think his end stop was San Francisco on a road trip, and it was from a beatnik. I would all champion this era, especially when it comes to men. We produced a lot of awesome shit. We created the new literature. Anyway, that's besides the point. It's a great book about, going on the road, man, and all the adventures that you can happen. But it's not written in, I don't know. It's a controversial book. It was then. It kind of is now. Now it's kind of like a hipster thing. It's been fucking co-opted by hipsters, but whatever. So.
Yeah.
Well, here's an interesting take on what you just said. I don't know if anybody is familiar with the rock band Rush. Okay,
yeah.
But the drummer Neil Peart. Okay, I mean, back in the '90s, he lost his daughter in a car accident. Okay, and this is on the topic of how men deal with their problems. So the drummer, he lost his daughter. A year later, he loses his wife. Okay, the guy lost it. Okay, and how did he deal with it? Well, he was into cycling. That eventually graduated into motorcycling. He got himself a nice BMW, and that's how he got around from tour to tour, going from town to town. He rode his bike. He went on a 30,000 mile trip throughout Canada, throughout the States. He logged and documented it all. I think he took well over close to 2 years, but he wrote a book on that, and it's also available, on the Rush DVD. Beyond the Lighted Stage, and he goes into that story. But there's an example of what he did. He just got on his bike and he rode, and he documented it all.
That's not victimhood, right? That's counter victimhood. That's transcendence.
It's a transcendence, and the thing is because I've been in scenarios like that. I mean, I'll never be as great a rock drummer as that, but it's that motivating factor. You might not be aware what it is, but it's something deep down inside that just says, hey, this is what I need to do. And I think that's how he acted. He acted intuitively. I mean, he was up against the wall, and it's that one quality, that one spark inside you that just said, this is what I need to do. I don't know why, but I'm going to do it. For some reason, it's good. And, that was his therapy for close to 2 years. Then eventually he got a call from Ray Daniels, the manager. Hey, do you want to get back and start drumming again? And sure enough, they're back out on the road. So that's a prime example right there, as I see it.
Yeah, we see all kinds of examples in history of men, going out. The Australians, they just, what do they call that? Take a walk. They just take a walk about, and we see with Walden on the pond, he just disappeared to the pond for a period of time to get his head straight. We see these books written, and still the medical community doesn't look up and say, hey, men need something different here. We don't need drugs, and we don't need cognitive behavioral therapy, and we don't need 44,000 women program. We need one program for ourselves that gives us the time to heal.
I was actually just typing. This reminds me of a film that I just saw, The Way, with Emilio Estevez and not Martin, but the father, who was in Apocalypse Now. What's his name escapes me.
Charlie Sheen.
Oh, jeez. Martin.
No, that's short. Oh no, it is Martin Sheen. Yeah, Martin Sheen's
Martin
the dad, right?
Yeah, Martin Sheen's the dad. Charlie Sheen's the son.
This is an awesome film. Basically, Emilio Estevez, he directed it. He got his dad involved. It was kind of a family affair, except for Martin.
Yeah.
But anyway, the premise of the film is that Emilio Estevez dies early on. He was on this backpack road trip. He was kind of like the wayward son, whatever. And his dad was like this well-to-do doctor. He finds out that his son died on this pilgrimage, this spiritual pilgrimage in France. No, between France and Spain, I think it is. And so when he finds this out, he flies to Europe to check it out, and then he actually continues this pilgrimage, even though he doesn't believe in any of it, in the spirituality, in the religious part about it. He does it to honor and pay homage to his son, and on the way, of course, he finds himself in a different way. You know what I mean? As far as films go, it's a good film. So.
Yeah, I think there was just one out called what was that? The Wild, where the son goes off after he does the whole college thing.
Yeah.
And he finds out at the end of it, and this is similar to my life. I find out that's not what I want to be in life. That's what I was told to be. That's what I was told I had to be. And that was a very stressful time in my life. And like this kid, he just walked around, tried to get into Mexico, couldn't get it, ended up in Canada. And it was very sad at the end. He finally ended up dying up in the Canadian wilderness and living in a bus. But there's the story in front of you, a man trying to find himself lost in this world that doesn't understand him.
He probably, I've seen the film too, and I actually, I know it comes from a book, and I try to start the book, but other things happen. What hit me about that is that the film at the end, it kind of leaves it in the middle, whether it was a tragedy or whether it was a lesson. Like, it's very unclear. But here, the way that I walked away with it is that he died riveted. And what I mean, he died living. That's irrefutable. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that bear scene when the bear comes and walks by him at the end, and it's like he's having this psychedelic moment almost, and he's like living there. He's feeling something. He's feeling his life and where he should have. He's having some flashbacks and what I should do and what I should have done, and I wish I would have did this and those. I wish I would have did these moments in life. We all have those.
And it was the grass is greener on the other side, because I think toward the end, especially before he died, I think wasn't it like in the movie and both in his journal, he kind of wrote down where I'm ready now. I'm ready to go back to my family. I'm ready to go back to society.
Yeah, he was ready, but he had no way to get out at that point. There was you get into
interesting lesson.
Yeah, isn't that an interesting lesson? It's like. That's where we all go sometimes. Well, a lot of men go. I can't say we all go there, but that's the suicide moment. There's no way back. I feel that I can't get back, and you can always come back. You can always come back. I set a lot of things aside in my life. In the people, the women, the females, my family, everybody, nobody was happy that I set those things aside. Still being filtered. I had to say, no, I'm not going to be filtered. I'm going to do something different in my life and try something different. And I tried a few things in life, failed at a few, then learned how to do things. Failure is...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, failure is a lesson, like you said. There was a lesson there to be learned, and I had to learn that lesson because no one ever taught it to me in life.
An interesting thing, Joe, I remember years ago I had a talk with a guy, a wise guy, so not a wise guy in the mafia sense, but, he had sense. And he said something about failure, and this guy was a successful businessman. and this might not mean much to some, but he said something interesting. He says, failure, everybody's going to fail, but are you failing forward? And
Yeah.
left a huge
I like that.
question mark there. And that's stuck. Okay? Are you failing forward? Right? Yeah.
Being a young, or relatively young single father, I've got at least 8 to 10 years, maybe more, to mine that to do the best I can to raise a decent human being.
Right.
But I'm already of the mindset that there's going to hit a certain point of that. As long as, and this is the interesting thing, this kind of goes back into I am always going to be entrapped by gynocentrism, especially because it is a female, that a daughter. But if I can, and I'm more than sure that I can, or hope, no, I can't say that. I'm hoping that I can. I want to walk away. I'm actually planning, my biggest goal is to walk away. And what I mean by that is like a little, and I don't know what that means. It might be a couple months, it might be a week, it might be a few years, but I want to walk away from society into wilderness, much like that movie. But I have 10 or 8 years to actually learn some skills and confer with other men on how not to die in the process.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, and I think you're at a good age to get that going too. Mid-30s, if that's your age group.
Yep.
This is where the energy and the sense of professionalism, right, kind of consolidates when you're in your 30s. And if you can really harness that and make a plan for 5 to 10 years, there's no reason, and if you're steadfast and you stick to it, there's no reason why you should be able to accomplish that.
Absolutely, and I look at it in a metaphysical way, and it kind of and almost in a racial way, if you want to go there, where I've ignored wanting to do that all of my life, and I got caught up in whether it was booze or women, whatever it was. I fucked it up. I made a lot of poor decisions.
Yeah, those
because I
are
didn't
void
honor
fillers.
what I wanted to do. So
yeah, void fillers. That's all they were: the booze, the drugs, and the women.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if I actually do this, and they may be wrong ideas of what it is to be a man, but from what I take about being a man, I'm a little bit romantic. I love history. So when I read stuff about, my Celtic bloodline or my Gaelic bloodline, German, Irish, and even my Comanche, the native part of me, there's all rites of passages, and there's certain elements of becoming a man. And I might not be able to do that till I'm 40, but I'm damn sure going to try. So.
But but the key thing is you just went down your family line, and down your family line there were traditions from each culture, and they were androcentric or in support of men, and it's it's the fact that you're digging into that, and extracting and getting your own identity from your own roots. And this is a key thing, for guys to do too as well. I can relate. I'm of mixed cultures, right? I have some Gaelic in me, some Welsh, right? And I've got some Southern European, and and I've been caught in the middle of that, but throughout my life. But then again, extracting one from each, right? That's part of my makeup. So that it's cool that you're doing that, man.
Yeah, who's that?
When I was younger, I tried to pay homage to it because I was caught with a couple countercultures and cultures and whatnot. One of them was vandalism, aka graffiti, at least the artistic side. And my handle, oh shit, can this expose me? No, I can't. My handle was it was a play on the word Celtic, and but it was with a Z, Zeltic.
Zeltic. That's cool.
And I used to throw that up everywhere. Yeah, I used to paint that everywhere, so.
Yeah, I was looking at your avatar there, and I was thinking you said Gaelic. Is that Kokohanan?
Kokohanan? No. Well, the image?
Yeah, the image.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I just found it the other day, and it looked like a badass troll. And I'm a firm supporter of online trolling because I don't look at it the same way as other people. So.
Okay, yeah, that's a good. If you got some Gaelic heritage, some Irish heritage, or Scottish, Kokohanan's a great. He's a mythical Irish warrior before, and he had some very gynocentric problems. If you go and I think Robert Burns does some stuff about him, and there's a few poets that do some stuff about him. But that's some interesting stories to read. He's the impervious male.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. Like I had gotten involved, because I found out. I was raised in a certain era and exposed to so much multiculturalism that, I had some identity crisis. And when I first found out I had, you know, a bit of non-white blood, I freaked out and I latched onto it, and I really probably did overboard on this. And I'm being very candid here. I'm saying shit that can really bite me in the ass later. But in any case, you know, I rode that till the wheels fell off, and the wheels fell off when I realized that, oh shit, Celtics had sweat lodges, and they had traditions, and they had like really cool culture, and the same that, you know, my Comanche part of me does. And when I realized that, I was able to humanize quote unquote white people in a different way.
Yeah.
And that was a really good moment for me, because it had less to do with race and more to do with manhood. And because that's always what I've been looking for is manhood. I really don't care about race.
Yeah. And I think those are purification rituals too. You know, every culture, every society has pretty much had one. And yeah, the sweat lodge thing, you know, up here in Canada, that's one of the things I wanted to check out too as well. But it's a purifying rite, right? Yeah. Get your mind straight so that you can start, you know, observing and watching what's going on around you, right? And seeing things from a different perspective, you know. And I think for people like of mixed cultures like myself, you know, the identity issues definitely, you know, add on to the challenges you have to overcome and wake up to, right?
Yeah. Is Heartburn in yet? Is he? How
you doing, Heartburn? I think he's still having some mic problems. Maybe he's away from the mic.
Okay. Sometimes you got to unplug it and then replug it back in to get it to go. I have that problem all the time. But yeah, these heroes and these men, you know, we get the Pixar, you know, white knight, and in our lives, and he's going to ride in and save the woman, and that's the only thing that's acceptable in our society. But there's a lot of other.
Yeah, and it's convoluted too, Joe. You know, I mean, we're talking about our generation. You know, let's look over the past 15 years. We've been pumped up with Hollywood. We've been pumped up with the quote-unquote ideal image of the white knight, and this is what a white knight is supposed to do, and they're just pumping that out through the tube, or, you know, through the screen, and they have for the past 50 years. Yeah. So I think men are so disenfranchised to the point that they're going on imagery. Okay, and fairy tale folklore, and they're trying to live their lives accordingly, and especially when it comes to the courting game. Okay, you know, there's no semblance of truth anymore. Okay, and that's what we're trying to do here, right?
And we're still allowed to be warriors, but we can't be poet warriors anymore.
Well, that's just it.
That's not manly enough. There's no utility in it for them.
Yeah. And it comes back to that filtering process that we mentioned earlier on, Joe. You know, evident in the therapy circles, right? You know, let's filter through this the way a man should be in order to in order to conform to the gynocentric way of things.
Yeah, what would be, let me ask you guys a question, and we can go down the line here. What would, if you could change anything in your life and you can bring back a semblance of who you are and masculinity that you felt you missed and from school age to maybe now, what would that be? What would that be in your life? And the ability to make decisions on your own, the ability to choose your own career, the importance of that career versus how much money you were going to make and how you can apply that to society. Is there anything that specifically hits you guys that, man, I wish I could go back and just do that one thing I wanted to do that was truly me?
You know, I think this comes back to the role models, the male role models. And I think, you know, mine was, you know, growing up, Joe, it was, you know, sure, I lived with my dad, and he's been a great example in many respects. But outside of that, because I think as men, we need different kinds of men who exude and show that kind of masculinity. Again, that's been eroding. But I'm happy to say what I missed was having a constant role model, a guy that I could constantly go to and talk about shit. Right, and you know, and get him to, you know, pass down some skills and you know, stuff along those lines, right? But that's what's been gradually eroding. Okay, guys have had to rely on the media, you know, to see what a perfect fucking role model is, and it's been convoluted, right? It's not true.
Right? Yeah, Matthew McConaughey is no role model.
No, he's not. And neither, and you know, go down the list, Tom Cruise and whoever else, you know.
Yeah.
You know, this is not the real world, okay? It's fantasy.
It's fantasy world. I just watched Insurgent last night, the Divergent. And, oh my God, that was so gynocentric. I was trying to practice. Me and Gonzalez were saying, sometimes you just have to put your Mgtow feelings away so you can watch a movie and just kind of have some entertainment value in it. And so I said, okay, last night I tried to watch Insurgent, and I was like, this freaking movie is so gynocentric it makes me sick, and I almost couldn't get through it.
If you want to talk Mgtow feeling, well, it translates now into benefit analysis and risk assessment.
Oh, yeah.
At least it does for me. That's how I see things. And even when I watch movies nowadays, you guys want to watch a really good red pill movie and have a good laugh, watch The Risky Business from 1983. It's hilarious.
The interesting thing, the risk analysis part of what you just said is that those are the same kind of mindsets that you have to have when you're alone in the wild.
Exactly, man. It's all about survival. And let's face it, Mgtow is a survival strategy in many respects, amongst many things. Let's keep in mind, the more we try to define Mgtow, the more it eludes us all. But that's the beauty of it, is because as an individual man, you can establish and determine for yourself what it is, right? And work from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was just trying to think, is Shining or Messenger having problems getting into this hangout? If they could
Yeah, I'm just gonna let me check here in G Plus, see what they're up.
Is there a chat going? Because I can't see if there's people in the chat or not. So
yeah, you should just bring up your the Sunday podcast page in YouTube, and do you have that up?
No, I don't actually.
Okay, yeah, just I guess you can put in the search for Sunday podcast male suicide.
Okay.
And be sure to kill your speaker so it doesn't get feedback.
Oh, yeah, I always do that, don't I? I open up the podcast, and then all of a sudden it starts up the podcast, and I get an echo. Is Heartburn still with us?
I think he's just answering. Cyborg just asked if he wanted to join in, so let me just ask if he still does.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what Cyborg has to say about
Yeah, Cyborg has a unique take on stuff. He's a little bit younger, and he's he's kind of in the office drudgery, and I've talked to him quite a bit, and he has a lot of interesting things to say. So
yeah, he had a really good video. His last video on addiction on females, the heroin and opiate use amongst women has increased like 300 times over the past 10 or 15 years. He's got the details. Yeah, he's just in the chat room here. I'm going to see if I can pass the link on to him. Okay.
awesome.
Okay. Cool. Okay. I'm going to open up my G Plus and see if it's going to betray me again. Okay, I can see it now. Okay. Okay, so what can we as Mgtows do about this? Well, I hear the common question in my threads on in any of my videos. What can we do to help with male suicide? We're not professionals. We're not counselors. We don't have the billions of dollars behind us, but we can't let that stop us. I know a few of the guys they talk to the men if they're feeling down. They get these private messages sent to them, and then you try to keep it going. You try to get them through the night. You try to give them some direction. You try to maybe share some experience, some strength with them, and we can do those things. But can Mgtow eventually? I always say Mgtow for men is going to replace the social systems for men.
Absolutely, and the interesting thing about Mgtow is, it's in the name that we're going to go our own way, and yet we're forming a community and collection, and so that seems counterintuitive. However, with all that being said, there is a community forming, and if we can make that a real thing, more male spaces in any way, and this could even mean just befriending someone we wouldn't normally befriend in our community, we can make the difference just by being that friend, just by being the option. Like, you make it very clear, hey man, if you're going through something, give me a call.
Yeah,
whenever you need to.
and this is what's cool about what we're doing on Sundays in the chat room. There are certain guys that are going to be able to connect. Okay, and this is something that I'd like to promote is get conversations sparked. As a result of our Sunday talks. Okay, and get into some real fucking talk. Okay, about what's going on, and then form groups from there. I think that's a better way to go.
Welcome.
Welcome, Cyborg.
Hey guys.
Hey, Cyborg, welcome.
Hi. I get used to talking. Yeah, so suicide. Yeah, I have a lot of experience with that. You saw one of my videos I made that I did that almost 4 times.
Okay, yeah, that's a. What was obviously there was no Mgtow and no men in your life that was at that point that you feel you could have helped out with that. Was there any men in your life at that point to go to talk about these things?
Well, it wasn't really Mgtow. It was more medical.
More medical, and that was.
And the fact that doctors don't treat, they only treat, they don't cure.
Yeah.
But I did see a couple of male psychologists, and like you said, they do try to bond with you, but they don't really try to be in the same shoes as the person that's being the patient.
Yeah, I can see there's a difficult. How many patients could a person have before they disconnect from most of the patients? How much of that can you share in your life? That seems to be a big problem with the medical community, is these people are overloaded with. You come in there, and how personal could it actually be when he's just reading off he's opening it up and he's going, well, the social worker before this said this about him.
Well, what I question is to what extent, to be more specific, to what extent can they empathize when they have a roster of patients, for the day, and keeping in mind that psychotherapists are trained to detach, from their,
Right.
case to case and how they go through the day. So yeah,
It's interesting. They're only allowed to intellectually sympathize or empathize,
right.
which means that, and this is very funny, if they're trained to do that and they do it well, they become sociopaths, which is actually a diagnosis for some of the,
Oh my God, yeah.
That's going into the Hannibal Lecter territory there now. But yeah, I see your point, and it could definitely go in that direction too as well. Mind you, I'm not clinically trained or anything like that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just a mimic. There. It's socially mimicking behaviors in an intellectual way that make you feel comfortable, but that in itself is so telltale to the human nature. You can spot that. You can spot the coldness. You can spot the distanceness in that. It's very easy to pick up, and especially for someone that's hypersensitive in those things.
Yeah.
Most people that come into a psychiatrist's office or a psychologist or someplace to talk, they are already hypersensitive to a lot of things, and any little trigger can set them off. So they're giving those little those cold responses that are trained to emulate and mimic real human gestures. It's sort of robotic, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I remember going into intake many years ago. I think when I was just a kid, and they put me, there I was, on the verge of suicide. Okay, and they drilled me in emergency. They drilled me with military style questions. I could have lost it right there. I could have gone out and killed myself. It was, you don't do that to people. Mind you, this was that's how it was in the intake about 30 years ago, if you will, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure. Hopefully, things have changed somewhat, but the system is not properly set up. It comes back to that.
Yeah. So, Cyborg, Did you find anything about that process helpful, or did you find that the process in itself led you to helping yourself? Or did you find that you just had to eventually help yourself because these people were just more.
In the end, Joe, that's just it. In my case, it was all about coming to the point where I had to figure out, for myself. And as a result, I've tried different things, for quite a few decades now, right? But again, it's the latter. You have to. I found for me, I had to do it for myself and explore for myself, and I think a lot of guys will relate to that.
I think one of the things that would be healthy to do is that if we meet someone who is either in counseling or about to go, I don't necessarily know that it'd be productive to say don't do it. They all suck. But I would think it'd be pragmatic to say, you know what, you should know what they're reading off of and what they're trained, and actually give them those tools. And one of them would be the DSM. The latest version is the 5, which is incredibly different from the last version, and you can actually sense some gynocentrism in it, and I find that terrifying. I perused this particular version of the DSM, their diagnostic manual, and it's horrifying how it's getting really convoluted and strange. And I think if you meet a man that is needs to or is apt to go to therapy, have him read it. Have him read it so that he knows. It's almost like joining an organization. Don't join an organization until you learn something about it, right? Same thing with therapy. Do not join therapy until you learn something about it.
Right. Yeah, these things are based on female empowerment, VAW laws, and certain, like you said, soft sciences that have been set up by gender studies, which is gynocentric, and they start reflecting it. If you read through one of those things, it'll almost automatically exclude anything masculine from it.
You know what's funny, Joe, is I thought about this. If I were to go through the intake into some kind of psychological or psychiatric facility, one of the first questions, if I had a female, therapist, if I was assigned to one, you know how it is through the system, that's the first question I would ask. Are you a feminist? That's it. Oh, you are? Okay. The session is ended. Thank you.
Just you asking that question would end the session. They don't even have to answer.
Exactly, and that's the whole point. But that's where I'm at now, right? Yeah, are you a feminist?
Okay. Yeah, they would perceive that as being aggressive, wouldn't they?
What's that? If they see me as being aggressive?
They would perceive that question as being aggressive.
Being aggressive. Well, I'm sorry.
And he would be diagnosed with conduct disorder and, anti-authority disorder and all this other disorders they got.
Oh, yeah. Just for asking a question. No, it's a question. Are you feminist?
Right, they like to use buzzwords to confuse you and make you think that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
If you look deep enough, to question authority too much, and interesting because there's no fine line written into it, to question authority or to be discontent with the state of the world, that's actually a condition.
Yeah.
That's a psychological disorder.
Well, that's only in the DSM-5.
I'm sorry, you were saying there?
Only in DSM-5 that's a psychiatric condition to question authority.
Yeah,
question authority. Exactly.
Yeah, and then they perceive themselves as authority, not as there's if you look through, I had a friend that was a counselor, and she always based it on a circular authority, but that's you got two different ideas of authority. You have a hierarchical authority and you have a circular authority. Mm-hmm. Now, if you give way to the idea of a circular authority where everybody in the room, sort of like we're doing here, has the same amount of privilege and the same amount of authority, then it just kind of works that way, and it becomes circular of the whole room. What we have is a hierarchical authority where it's questioned. If you ask any question of it, then it becomes you're aggressive and you need some other kind of and what they're saying is you need some kind of punishment.
Yeah.
I just sent a link, guys, to Masked Mgtow. He asked to join in, so we're just waiting any minute for him to show up.
Well, maybe we should redirect the question. How about what does it mean? How about we compare two things? What does it mean to be accountable, and then also what does it mean to want to commit suicide? And do the two things relate? And
Yeah.
or actually, that's a loaded question. I'm bullshitting. do men often commit suicide because they're beating themselves up with all the accountability they're expected to have?
Right. Yeah, that was the altruistic aspects of suicide. It's considered that you have these duties and responsibilities in life which are imposed by society. They're not real. They're not. These are just social measures that are imposed to make sure that you're doing your job and society is benefiting from your presence. And then men get betrayed by these altruistic instincts that they have. Sometimes men feel that it's better off if they're dead, their family will be doing better, and then they commit suicide. It's the jumping on the grenade thing. If I'm gone, everybody else lives on a happy life, and we get this with, I'll just work myself to death. Isn't that a form of altruistic suicide? I'm just going to work myself to death so my family has a better living.
I thought of that way for a while in my youth. Since my medical problems cost a lot of money, when my dad lost his job, I blamed him because I needed him to provide medical services and pay for that. But it took a long time to get over that resentment.
Right. Yeah. We become burdensome. We become cumbersome to the world at a certain point. If we get sick, if we have physical problems, we become cumbersome to the world, and we perceive that as our own failure. But if you're looking at a girl that became a woman, that became a female, that became sick, she would automatically be taken care of in this gynocentric system and received empowerment, received a whole bunch of help. But the male is left there all alone, without no help, to just feel like he's burdensome to this world. And I know that feeling. That I've had that feeling at the end of my marriage. Like, geez, why don't I just shoot myself? Because the insurance policy would pay off, or they can go on with their lives, and I'm useless. That's what we get a lot of in Mgtow.
And the sad part in all that, Joe, is that it's kept silent. You never know. And those guys, before they kill themselves, they hide it so well.
They hide it.
And this is the thing. This is the crucial thing about that kind of psychology in the male, is the fact that they hide it. And the cover up. I should know, because I lost my best friend about 7 years ago as a result of that. He committed suicide. That's what prompted me also to come to Mgtow in many respects. So, I'm still dealing with that, actually.
It's interesting, and it kind of gets into linguistics, and why is it in the Western world there's only one word or one frequently used word for suicide, whereas in every other culture in the history, if you look at this word, you see different forms of it. You see immolation, immolation, or you see, self-sacrifice, and you also see martyrdom or martyrdom.
Yeah.
Why is there only one word for the act of taking one's life in our culture? And I think we know the answer to that, but it's unfair for us to look at it, because when you only call it suicide, there's a negative connotation. You're selfish. You left people behind. You suck. You were weak. So
yeah, we get that a lot. I see that at funerals of suicide, and then there's one outspoken person that'll get up and say, well, he was just selfish. No, he wasn't. He was altruistic. He was being altruistic. It was martyrdom. He felt at this point he could not receive no help. He felt that he needed to end his life so the rest of the community would be better, and he wouldn't be this quote unquote anchor on the community.
Yeah.
Right. I like to add that that happened to me in the double standard, because my mom has health problems, and often my dad just says, "Oh, your mom or your grandma doesn't complain," but they've had years of life of not having medical problems, and I've only known like 3.
Right, yeah. Now, Zeta, we had this interesting conversation a few weeks ago about the people we know that actually committed suicide, and none of them actually spoke out. None of them actually, the ones that succeeded in suicide in the first attempt. Uh, there's a difference here. Some people reach out and they're asking for help. And most men that succeed in suicide, you're never going to see, you're going to hear it. I never seen that coming. I talked to him the day before and I didn't see that coming. And the simple idea that he imploded within himself, I should have been able to see, but I didn't see it. I missed it.
Well, maybe our subconscious is aware of it, Joe. And that's just it. We get a sense if if we really get to know our friend really well, we'll get a sense, but it's never surfaced. It's never vocalized. Okay, and then it's a question of timing. If your friend is right at its peak, and he's doing a great job at covering it up, it's too late. Okay, and that's like the case with my buddy. His was an alcoholic suicide, pretty much. Okay, he died by a misadventure, but he had told me a month before. Okay. He says, I don't want to live anymore. And that's probably, and this is what I'm trying to resolve within myself, is shit, what I answered him, was that the right answer? And I'm still mulling it. And I told him, I said, Serge, I can't help you there, man. If you want to kill yourself, I honestly can't help you in that. I'm here to live. And that's, I probably said the wrong thing right there. And, I'm going through that self-blame right there.
It gets confusing because, like, are we, to be an actualized man, do we advocate, or Mgtow, whatever you want to call it, do we advocate for the option? Are we advocating that or are we saying that it is the option, it's still a taboo option, and if you do it, we won't judge? Like, this becomes an interesting, how, like, attitudes towards suicide are amazingly complex. I think everybody has a different, kind of perception of it. My own thing is that I kind of do advocate for the option in certain circumstances, which does not suggest that I want people to kill themselves. However, it does mean that you're a human being, and if you see fit to that option, how can I stop you? Why would I stop you?
Oh man, it's a huge spectrum to discuss. Okay, because then that goes into where you want to end your life because of medical conditions and all that, euthanasia. I mean, it's a huge spectrum. We could do probably 5 hangouts, getting into this and really exploring the moralities, surrounding that. But my concern is again, it comes back to media. You hear about the samurai culture. Oh man, the honor. Well, geez, it's a culture based on shame. And that's how they killed themselves. And that can infiltrate and send a wrong message to guys if they're media induced, right? So, get the facts about all that. But again, it's a huge topic, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, I guess it would be, labeling people too. If people don't have extreme health problems and it's emotional, that would pretty much would exclude them from a planned obsolescence or a planned suicide.
Yeah.
Oregon's got a great model with this. You're allowed to do that in Oregon, but you have to go through procedures and steps and counseling. And if there are cancer, leukemia, some of these awful diseases, yeah, that's a suicide. But in our cases and Mgtow cases, most Mgtow cases where people are still functional,
yeah,
there's still a value, and I hate to say value, there's still a value. What men have to see is your value to yourself. I could still turn this thing around, and even though I was that utility, even though everybody thinks I am a slave, I can change that.
Mm-hmm.
I can start living for myself. And we see that all the time in Mgtow. We're living for ourselves, and it is a selfish program. And just saying that's okay. Live for yourself. Take some time for yourself.
And that's just it. Is this it's been so convoluted in a sense that you're becoming somebody else and you forget about yourself. And that's it's in that process, of forgetting yourself that once you're up against the wall, something can spark and enough for you to change your life. Talking about this, it reminds me of Patrick Henry as a prime example. He's a prime example, a man that was driven right to the very end. and then something sparked in him, okay, whatever it was, and he changed his life around. And this is something that's been going on with Mgtow for, what I've observed in the past 3 years. Guys come around to that point. Patrick Henry, thanks, man. He's a prime example. Go to his channel, Law, Life After Women.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Patrick. I love Law, and he was a good example in Mgtow when it was the very early years in Mgtow when he was first around,
Yeah.
and he showed us how to. He kind of showed us how to exit and take this thing into our lives.
Exactly. I'm just going to post that actually because I highly recommended his channel.
Okay.
His channel is good.
Yeah. So, we are doing something real here. It's a real action, and I says, I get the argument, the metaphysical argument, and in Mgtow all the time. Why are you doing this? There's something shameful about what you're doing. And I did that video yesterday about I'm done. I'm done with all that. I'm done with someone trying to shame me back in that, because I can't go back. There is no going back after I took this red pill, after I did this and started living for myself. There would be no other way for me to live my life. If I was forced back into the way things used to be, then I would probably start ruminating about suicide. It wouldn't be worth it at this point, because I do have a pretty good life. I do what I want to do. I work in the field that I want to work in now. I don't stress a lot of it. There aren't those stressors that getting plates thrown at you and shit, and getting yelled at and shamed all the time about your failures. These perceived failures, not really your failures. What we talk about accountability and responsibility from these women all the time, but what accountability? There's 50% in any that is theirs, but they don't seem to want to take that. They want you to do everything and then shame you into that.
Well, if we talk about the option of suicide, then we also, what that suggests is that there are other options, right?
Right.
And I think that that's what we should be advocating, is that, you know what, you may be looking at this in a way that makes sense, might even be rational at some point, but there are other ways to exist without ending your existence, and I think Mgtow definitely is an option,
Yeah,
so.
change your paradigm, change your life, change whatever's bothering you, change it. I clip those strings of people dragging you down. There are other options here. You look out your door, there's a million options. There's other things out there besides what people have been telling you all your life. Get married, get a job, do that, be a good, strong provider. That stuff's bullshit. That's their wishes.
Well, here's an interesting mind, kind of like a mind game, or a psychological journey you can take. Just post red pill. If you really look down into the future, if you meditate and contemplate on it, if women are out of the equation, does suicide even present to be an option? Is it a valid option anymore?
That is a golden question right there. I'd love to hear what anybody has to say. That's a really, really good point.
Yeah, no, not for me. Once that stress was over, it was just about, it was a simple process after that of finding something that made me happy, and that was easy to do.
I have a different say on that. You guys are seeking the physical. I seek the metaphysical, and I know that there is something beyond the physical. And I often think that death is a sweet release from a physical form.
And you come from the state of being, and many may not know this, but you have a certain condition and you felt pain many of us never have. So the idea of like, well, this pain sucks, and there probably is something better on the other side, that's also a valid thing. I mean, it's a valid assumption. Like, do we know? We can't, because we're getting into metaphysics, spirituality, whatnot. But even if you don't believe in those things, like, if you suffer, if you're in agony, to want to end that is a rational choice, is it not?
I've also died before.
Expand on that.
Yes.
Yes.
I explained it in one of my videos that I did. It was when I was doing an experimental procedure to help improve muscle coordination and control and hopefully reverse some of the symptoms. On the last visit, when they gave me the last dose, I died for several minutes clinically. And I'm one of the few people that, like where you say, like when you see the movies, documentaries like Race to the Cure, they actually already have a grave site waiting for them because the doctors think that it's over.
Oh yeah, I remember that. When I was sick, I went down to 130 pounds from 270 over a 3 month period.
Yeah, I know
So
that's.
that's and my family bought they bought my gravesite. They got ready for me to die, and that was where I was going. Uh, but there's a certain strength in being male that I found. There's a I can't put my finger on it, but
Joe, I think that's the metaphysical aspect that Cyborg's
yeah,
talking about is when you're driven to that point where all consciousness is pretty much lost and, the void is ever so present. It's that spark, Joe. I think it's
yeah,
that
that
spark.
spark. It was a
And
spark
I'm
that hit
saying this
me.
because, we've talked, in the past about this, about your experience. And that's the only, I think it's a metaphysical quality because everything else has been exhausted. And, and it's in a way, it's kind of like taking a chance, right? Because if you're on that verge of just pulling the trigger, right? And then, and we've heard this from guys too as well, right? But I think it's all metaphysical. That point where they awaken, and that Eckhart Tolle moment, Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
We've heard.
What are you gonna awaken to? Yeah, we awaken to something, a new understanding about this thing, a new drive.
Yeah,
That's what made me. That's what made me an MRA. It's what made me a Mgtow because I had something then. I had a I had a life quest, a life goal at
yeah.
that point in my life that no other men were going to experience what I experienced.
Mhm.
That was my life goal. Hello, Shining.
Hello, Shining.
Hi guys, sorry I wasn't feeling well, so I went to lie down. I thought I'll have a half-hour lie down before the start of the podcast, and it turned out into a 2-hour sleep.
Okay. How do you feel now?
Oh, I feel much better. That sleep always makes you feel better,
Oh
no
yeah,
matter
yeah.
no matter what the problem is.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot this week? Kind of get worn down?
Oh, well, I did actually. I did an awful lot. I did yeah. I tried. Yeah, I've gone off catching. Well, I don't have a car anymore, so I've gone off. And then this week I tried not catching the bus, so I
Okay.
walked everywhere,
So
and
you walked?
yeah, I
Yeah.
walked everywhere. And then this morning I had my regular workout, and then I didn't feel well after that. And
Oh
I
yeah.
went for a little lie down.
Sometimes I do that when I first started walking. Well, when I first got rid of my car, uh, I would say okay, I'm gonna do my 2 miles a day, and then I would do another 2 miles, and then at the end of the somewhere down that period, I was going, well, I got to go to the Save a Lot, which is a 3 mile walk, and then I did that, and then I'm working out, and the next day I'm like, I think I overdid it.
Mm. Well, it's a nice little room. I see. I wasn't too badly missed. What topics have you guys been talking about?
We've been doing male suicide, different types of male suicide. We've been doing what centers around the MGTOW suicide, what centers around what causes most MGTOWs. It's the shame. It's the the feeling that you let down the world, all that stuff. I think that's where it's important to discuss these things with MGTOWs and to give them out, somewhere to reach out to. Men don't have nowhere to reach out to. So basically, it was suicide. Let's see.
Well, I like to think generally, once people come into MGTOW, they're no longer suicidal. Is that not the case?
Yeah, if you
No.
sit down with us, yeah. If you sit down with us for any period of time, how can you be suicidal?
How can that be possible?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see more guys opening up and talking to each other. I know it's not easy, what with all the time differences, but I mean, we've talked to guys from all over the world that speak English these days. But it'd be nice to get in touch with more guys. I know the bigger channels, they get more people contact them than the smaller ones. But I'd like to see more people opening up.
Yeah. Heartburn, are you on yet?
Because they're bigger channels, the content creators do not have as much time to interact with their fan base, and that's its own problem. That's its own thing. That comes to the price of maintaining a bigger channel. So I think the meat and the importance of Mgtow is in the smaller channels. It's in that part of the community where we can actually interface, where we have a little bit more time to give to each other because we're not maintaining this big, channel and all that stuff. So
yeah,
that's a funny paradox, isn't it? It's like the guys that can help the most are the guys that get used the least, and the guys that get contacted the most, they're the guys. Sadly, some of with the largest channels, they don't have time for their comments or their subscribers at all. I think that's the saddest part. But no, definitely, I know those guys. We try to. Anybody that private messages me anyway, I reply to.
The funny thing about that, and going back into the paradox, is that if you look at the comments on the really big channels, it's almost like men are trying to out Mgtow other men in how they they word stuff. Like I'm going to get your attention because I'm going to out Mgtow everybody else, which actually goes back to the plantation mentality.
Yeah, who's the best Mgtow they're playing? Yeah.
Oh, you need to level up, guys. You need to level up with Mgtow.
Level up.
You need to go beyond that level 4. I think level 5, level 6 is coming in soon. You guys need to level up.
Hey, Heartburn, are you still with us?
I'm here, gentlemen. Forgive me.
Did you have some mic problems earlier?
Yeah, that, and I had an impromptu association meeting with my neighbors out in the front yard here.
Well, good of you to join us, man.
Good to be here, guys.
Yeah, excellent.
Talking about neighbors, I've just noticed my neighbor has gone. Direct opposite me, there was a very young couple that moved in last year. Very young couple. They were like 24, 25 Asian couple that moved in. And a few months later, he vanished. She was there by herself. I saw her going in all the time, and then so obviously she's got the house. I don't know what happened. Obviously, they split up. She's got the house, and now she's just rented it out to some. It seems like Eastern European guys. But there you go, guys. Another separation.
Yeah.
Masked Mgtow, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
And how are you doing? Well, do you have anything to add to our conversation here, buddy?
Well, I had earlier just checked what's going on in your chat, and Eric Wingard, sorry if I butcher your name, brought up really good points about the what we were talking about earlier with the big channels and responding to their subscriber base. It's all about balance. You want to grow your channel, but you also have to be able to make time for a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah, generally,
sound like I'm not sure what I'm saying.
Generally, the big channels, once they go beyond like 6,000-7,000 subscribers, I know that they don't read the comments. I know they just don't read them. Except for Turfing and Monkey, by the way.
Yeah, he seems to be the exception. I mean, I've left comments.
He's about to overtake Stardust soon. 13,500. He's just gonna overtake him soon. But yeah, as far as I can see, he's probably the only big channel that reads his comments.
You were saying, Miss?
I've seen a lot of different ones like Raging Golden Eagle and it's Sandman going in and responding to a lot of their comments in the comments section. So.
Say that again, Say that again about Sandman.
I've also noticed that he also goes into his comments and.
Oh, he does
responds.
now, yeah. Ever since that Vikuha, when everybody started criticizing him and saying he was a bad channel and not Mgtow, and people started making videos about him, he now he now reads his comments.
As long as he remains logical and unbiased, I really don't
Well, there we go, guys. A shout out
don't care about that.
to Sandman and TFM's channel right here. well, if are we still on the subject of suicide, or
Yeah, I think we're going to stick with the subject.
Are we changing?
Back on track there about male suicide.
If an interesting figure that's coming out of the UK is now on average one teenager in England. That's England. That's not including Scotland or Northern Ireland or Wales, which is normally included in the UK statistics. In England alone, there's averages about one suicide per week of a teenager, a preschool, like a pre-high school, a pre-college teenager, so between the ages of 11 and 15, commit suicide in the UK, and I think it's like 70% or 80% of them are from single mothers or have no contact with their father.
Not surprising. The figure in Canada, I think it's an average. It's about 4-to-1 ratio. 4 men to 1 woman commit suicide. It works out to an average of 8 men daily in Canada kill themselves, take their own lives. Out of those 8, 2 of those are kids or are teenage boys. Okay, 1 of them or 2 of them are due to mental health issues, and the other 4 are a result of divorce.
Well, they haven't released the national suicide rates for the UK yet, but the last ones I read, which were, I think they were 2009, which are the last ones I could find. It was 4,000, approximately 4,000 a year in the UK, England and Wales.
Yeah, it's 3,000 in about 3,000 in Canada out of a population of 30+ million, right?
Yeah.
So it's up there. You know, the ratio comes down to, and you know, if you really look at the stats, it comes down to a 4-to-1 ratio. You know, as men, we're killing ourselves more.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask
the suicide rates. Oh, I'll let you go.
No, you go ahead, and then I'll ask my question.
I just opened up a new tab and pulled up the suicide rates in America, and men have a suicide rate of 20.2, and well, this is in 2013, so it's a couple years ago. It had a suicide rate of 5.5.
Sorry, that's 5.5. Can you elaborate on that stat?
From the way I'm reading it, 5.5 of deaths of females are from suicide, and 20.2% of male deaths are suicide.
Well, I was just going to ask you guys, seeing as we've got a good number of people here, you know, how would you handle if one of your friends or family was seriously considering suicide or even attempted suicide, and how would you know? I mean, quite often people who commit suicide, the guys around them, they knew they had problems, but they didn't know they were suicidal. I mean, how would you guys handle that? Anybody? Anyone to take that one?
Here, let me jump in, guys. How are y'all?
Yeah, nice and happen.
Yeah, sorry I've been absent for the first hour, but I'll answer your question, Shining, just in a little context of being a YouTube creator, content creator, because now on occasion, I've got people coming to my channel insinuating that they want to die or that they're, you know, contemplating suicide. So my first instinct was probably a little less than compassionate. I would just ignore their comment because I didn't really know what to say. I didn't know whether they were just looking for attention or whatever. But I on my own, I've had to kind of come up with a small protocol. When I have somebody send me a private message, once in a while I get these really gushy notes from people, and I don't even know them, and they're talking to me like I'm their best friend, and it's very awkward for me, and I don't want to say anything to them inappropriate. So after looking at it online, the different, suicide, I don't know how useful they are, but suicide prevention, sites on the internet, I now just give them basically, not a cold-hearted, but a default response to them. Here are some sites you should look at. Here's a phone number, and just by the way I sign off the note, I'm not going to maintain contact with them. I'm not going to indulge them in a conversation. I don't have anything to offer them. So I've cooked this up on my own. I'm just going to have to relegate it to good luck to you. Here's some sources that might help you. I'm not the guy for you.
Oh, Heartburn, while I remember, what happened to your channel? When I checked it last week, you had 3,000 subscribers, and I just had a look this week, and you only got 1,000.
Oh, I've never had 3,000. That must have been a mistake.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's Joe? I think Joe pointed that out too.
That'd be quite a feat, being able to get rid of 1,500 subscribers in a couple of days. I wouldn't mind trying that.
Maybe it was a glitch.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah,
but
back
yeah,
to what you were saying about your protocol, it makes sense. If you're not equipped to handle it, trying to could be more detrimental than just ignoring them in the first place.
Certainly. I mean, the point is, I don't want to get mired in an emotional. I don't want to foster. I don't want to encourage them to get emotionally attached to me.
Yeah.
Of all people in the world to get emotionally attached to, go figure. But that's just how it is sometimes. Once in a while, I get a message like that, and I can see that that's going to happen more often as my channel grows.
But that's interesting. I mean, why is that, brother? You think maybe you're not confident in talking over with this person's problems, or you feel like it'll be too much of a burden on
Well,
you?
if they're outright insinuating suicide, then no, I'm not going to talk with them. I don't want to be involved. I'm simply, as far as I'm concerned, if they're at that point, I have no business trying to talk them off the ledge, so to speak.
Mhm.
I just don't have any business engaging with them because I don't know what their motivations for talking to me, of all people, are. So I just feel it's best to give them a good amount of sources online to look at and send them on their way in a polite way, of course, and in an affirming way. As far as someone having an issue, I don't mind dialoguing with somebody on that level. But as a Mgtow, I'm a little different. I've never been divorced. I've never lost my children. So again, I'm limited in what I can talk to people about.
Well, how about you, Cyborg? You, I think me and you have talked about something like this. Maybe, I mean, how did you handle it when some of your friends they might have had suicidal thoughts or?
Well, I don't really know because a lot of my friends they don't really consider that I'm the one that is leaning towards that. So,
well, maybe you could give some insight I mean, Heartburn just said he doesn't really know how to cope with that, so he would not engage in that discussion. I mean, I'd say it's quite often the person who's suicidal he's normally just wants somebody to speak to. Normally it's just talk about anything sometimes. I mean, normally I found that the person, especially if they're reaching out to you and they're sending you a message, they don't really want any counseling or they don't really want to be talked out of suicide. They just want to talk about anything.
right. That reminds me of an example of one of my friends from high school. He has CP, and he was getting really bad because he tried an experimental medication also, and he's bedridden now. And he posted on social media that he wanted to end it, and I just tried to open up a conversation about some of the stuff that I knew that we were interested in high school, like science fiction and video games.
Right, connecting on a personal level, if you can, but it's not your like Harper was saying, it's not generally your responsibility if you don't know how to deal with that thing, then it doesn't automatically, we can't automatically assume all MGTOWs take that responsibility. And that's the important part about finding your niche, your group, or having a vast amount of people in there with a vast amount of experience from different levels of life. So you can find easily your niche, your group, who relates to you, who doesn't relate to you. It, at first in MGTOW, it was this thing where there was just a certain idea of Mgtow. Now we got a lot of different Mgtows out here, and that's the important part. Someone can come see me. Someone can come see Zeta if they relate to Zeta. If it's a demographic thing, we have people from all around the world. If it's a speech thing, we have Germans, we have Mexicans, we have Spanish speaking people, we have Irish people, we have black members. You can almost find anything you need to find in Mgtow, and that's where we need to be. But it doesn't become your automatic responsibility to cure a guy of suicide. It doesn't of making his life worth living. But you can, in that situation, say, go see RGE, or go see Joe, or go see Zeta. That's what you can do. Get to know your community so you can send these guys somewhere where they can get the help.
And that's the extent that we can go, Joe, really, is let guys know you've got an open spectrum here of help and resources that probably hasn't existed in history before with the access and the advent of the internet as we know it, okay? This is what we have, and this is what we need to promote, right,
Yeah.
in many respects. And also, if there are guys out there who have the skill set of empathizing,
Yeah.
And are able to help out, by all means, contact us. Send us, maybe we can form something out of this and hold separate hangouts at any given time,
Right, yeah. People don't realize, and I say it over and over again, that here, if you're in the northeastern part of the United States, and if you can grab a flight here and you need help, there's help here. I have rooms, I have beds, this is what I do.
Yeah. That's huge right there, Joe. That's huge.
I can take a man in a transitional period and give him that break he needs for short periods of time. I don't need a long-term roommate or anything, but I will get everything you need so you can, me as a single person, this is what I do. Not a lot of people know that. Not a lot of people realize that. We talked about this the other day, that not a lot of people trust me to do that.
Right.
But I can guarantee if you walk through these doors and you're broken male and you're considering suicide, a short period of time later, you will get the rest you need, you will get the help you need, you will get everything you need from me. Because I do this. This is what I do. I'd like to see more MGTOWs do this thing. I'm not taking in drug addicts or broken males, and there's a difference between a MGTOW. And we automatically get labeled as maldeficients or we're malformed or something. We're not. I'm taking in males that I know are going to be successful out there. I can talk to you guys. There's a certain amount of intelligence and pride and honor and masculinity in these men. I don't have to worry about who I take in, because if you're a Mgtow, I already automatically know you're trying to move forward, and I can help you with that. So if we can get more places, if we get 1,000 places around the world, like Joeville here, then we have become the system then.
Well, this is a question of mobilizing eventually, and keep in mind, we're within 5 years as Mgtow, and even for those guys that have been around, one of the key factors in Mgtow is evolution, is personal evolution.
Right.
And and if you've walked through the door into Mgtow and you're a broken man, okay, again, we have the resources. We're probably historically the only source right now where we're opening up doors that nobody else out in society, in the mental health, sector, has even looked at. Okay, it's happening. Barbarossa is prime example of that. A couple of years ago, You know, the whole slew of guys. I mean, I mean, if you want to send him an email on that, if he's going to answer it, but he's got a history of guys, you know, literally thanking him for saving his life. Okay, and there have been other channels, and this is something that's, you know, that's indicative of what the power of Mgtow is. That power of truth. You know,
this message that there's a lot of guys like you is life-saving.
Yeah.
We thought we were the only ones. No, you're not. There's millions of us.
And that's just it. And this is something that I've said in an earlier video a couple months ago. What we have here at Mgtow is the language of, hey, me too.
Me too.
You know, it's that thing that echoes at the back of your mind when you're listening to a guy. And like I've said, you know, it just takes one fucking word. Okay, one word said in context can wake a man and save his life forever.
Yes, yes. Hello, Messenger.
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for Messenger to come in because I know he's done his research.
I'm learning. I'm learning slowly. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, you just done a video, Messenger.
Yeah. I was just listening, actually. I've just made a cup of tea, so I'm ready. It's just interesting when people say they want to kill themselves. From what I understand and what I've read, the first thing you should say to them is, where does it hurt? You know, why do you want to kill yourself? What, you know, and it's, if they don't want to tell you the answer, that's fine. But you're never going to get any further along with that person unless you understand why they feel like that. And if it's something, if it's a divorce, or if they've lost their job, or they've lost their house or whatever, then you can proceed to find them the help they need. They're just, with suicide, it seems to be the case that they're overwhelmed by more than one problem in many cases. I know I'm generalizing, but it's a downward spiral. So if they get divorced, of course, then they won't see their children, and then they'll lose their house, and then they may take to drink or drugs, and all of those factors combined will make them suicidal. But if you find the catalyst and deal with that, you know, and get them to the family courts, help them fill in forms, find them a place to live, or point them in the right direction. You don't have to go out of your way and suffer in your own life to help someone. I'm not saying be altruistic about it, but it's like Zita says, we've got a network here, and we can delegate, and we can spread it out amongst people, so it's not such a burden to everyone. And say, okay, this man needs a job. Is there anyone there? This man needs a place to stay. Anyone there? Does anyone know a good lawyer? And at least then people are speaking to him and addressing the problems he's got. If he can see the problem as I understand it, and there's many theories on it, so you can't say there's one problem or one reason, but the problem as I understand it is that that person has got to a point where they are completely helpless. They feel completely helpless, and the only option they can see then is to end their pain, you know, just to give up. So if you can say to them, okay, listen, let's break down your problems. That one's temporary. We can deal with that. That one's temporary. We can deal with that. And then they start to think, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
Well, that's the window of opportunity right there. That's the opening of doors that you're talking about there, okay? And that's the best that we can do, okay? Is if we can break all those things down, you know, that whole deductive reasoning process, you know, that's where the hope is, you know? It's, you know, and that becomes, you know, that's the balancing act right there when you're dealing with guys. You don't know if that spark is going to happen, right? We're all taking a chance on that. But then again, that's the crux of individuality right there. If you've driven to that point, you know, you got to take the responsibility for that somehow. That's just my take.
I think one issue is normally when someone is so depressed or so down or in a state where they want to commit suicide, it's very, very rare that they turn to anyone and ask for help, and then for them to be able to reach out to somebody, send a message or make a phone call. They are not going to say, they normally don't say that I'm going to kill myself. It's just something that they might do out of habit. Now, the one phone call or that one message is normally the last attempt at that person's cry for help, and normally that's a very, very sensitive time. Now, the thing is, men are not equipped to do this because we're not equipped to do this because, number one, society doesn't really address the issue, addresses issue of male suicide. They normally don't really care whether men kill themselves or not, which is why I think, and I love the fact that Mgtow is trying to engage with this problem. And I would say that if they're reaching out to you, that all they want is someone to talk to. And I think it's going to be, they're going to take it quite badly if, number one, you tell them to go to the police, because quite often they've had problems with the police. Obviously, if they feel they've got no one else to turn to, they've already they've already discarded the police or regular normal government services, so they're turning to you. And I think sometimes all it is just talking to them, just talking to them.
They need to turn to anyone. They need to turn to themselves, and you just need to, they need a bit of help and support. But if you can turn them around and just give them a bit of a positive outlook, half the time, in the case of the altruistic suicide, they're so focused on what other people need, they've neglected themselves. They've never been to the gym. They don't go for a walk. They're just such a heavy burden of responsibility on their shoulders, and they feel like this is the thing with our society now. It makes no effort to understand how men work, and it doesn't know how to fix us. So we break down all the time. But when we break down, they throw us in the garbage and then replace us with the new, up-to-date model that's fully functioning. And we're obsolete now.
Oh, if I can just add, if you're in the UK, yeah, sorry.
Go on, Sam. Sorry.
I was just going to say, if you're in the UK, and you're suicidal, the police are probably the last people you want to go to, because normally they'll be looking to commit you to an institution. They don't want to help because they're not. Policemen are not trained to deal with that mental problems. They're not, and they're trained to deal with it in that investigate it, but they're not trained to deal with it in a compassionate sort of way. They'll be looking to commit you into an institution. So that's the government's answer, but that's not going to help that person. Does not want to go into a
that person's got inner turmoil that they need to deal with themselves. I mean, I did it before. I went to the doctor, and he sent me to a clinic, and the next thing you know, they're trying to get me to sign a form, and I'm having to break out of a mental institute, and by the time I got home, the police were already there looking to section me. And that's how they deal with it. They give you pills. If the pills don't work, they send you to like a nut house, and the next thing you know, if you don't want to sign the forms and be sectioned, then the police come and forcefully section you. So that's how they deal with it. They don't deal with it. They just throw you away. So if we can encourage men and say, right, you've got all these problems. You're not going to sort them all out today. It's not going to get solved in one go. What do you like to do? When did you last go? And get them thinking about, get their train of thought away from, because they've got these new patterns of thinking now. They've got these new habitual cycles of thinking where they say, have I got cartridges for the shotgun? When am I going to do it? Where am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? And that's what they've been thinking about. And even if you talk them around, the next day they'll just go back into that old pattern of, well, I'm going to kill myself. The world's better off without me because I'm worthless, and I can't see any future. So if you can say to them, your problems are temporary, give them something in the distance, some sense of purpose, some sense of meaning, so they can think, now I can see a light at the end of this temporary tunnel. And say to them, but in the meantime, that's a bit of a mountain to climb. When was the last time you went for a walk? When was the last time you went fishing? What did you used to like to do before you took on all this responsibility? Did you go to the gym? And they'll always find an excuse. They're so negative. They'll always say, I can't do this because that all went wrong last time, and you know, oh fuck that, I've lost my fishing rod. I'm not, you know, it's not going to work, and it's frustrating. And they'll do that to you, and you can, after a while, if you're persistent, and say to them, okay, that's fine, you know, you don't have to do that. Find a book. Just keep putting different suggestions in their head, but steer them away from the negative.
Yeah.
Keep them on the positive, and it's not like you're brainwashing. You're just trying to change the attitude. If you can get their outlook to change, if you can change their attitude from that negative life isn't worth living outlook to, oh, maybe I don't have to, maybe I could have a day off tomorrow, you know, the bills are paid, I've got debts, but you know, maybe I should just have one day off a week, and I'll go and do something I want to do, and they'll feel better, you know. And that's the thing with Mgtow. We've got this, we're lucky. The altruistic suicide is not really an issue for us because we don't have that burden of, you know, not many of us have that burden of full families to support. But we've got the opposite, the egoistic suicide, where people who are lonely, people who feel unloved, people who are isolated. But we've got this little social group. We can talk. But again, that's the opposite. So that's another catalyst for suicide, you know, people who are just isolated. And that's a lot to do with the older people, the over 65s who kill themselves. So it's so diverse. There's so much information. It really is.
I mean, ideally, I think helping someone who's suicidal is doing those things. You know, take them out. You know, take them to the gym. Take them for, you know, go have some lunch. Go to a museum. Go have a walk. I mean, that would be an ideal situation. But us here on YouTube or online, we can really only talk to them. And for those that don't feel confident in talking to them, then yeah, say, well, why don't you come join? You just say to them, so why don't you come join our group? You know, we're a group of guys. We talk, you know, a couple of times a week. Why don't you come talk to us? And you know, they can come hang out with us. I mean, we always welcome guys to jump on with us.
Yeah, yeah. I was just going to say very quickly, gynocentrism and society today has a good way of breaking men down, and it breaks them down. And all we've got to do is try and build them up again. You know, they don't want someone holding their hand. They need someone to tell them, "You're a strong man. You're a good man. You know, you're a capable man. You're the man. You go and do it." Yeah, build up their confidence again, because we're just made to feel like we're shit all the time. And then he'll stand on his own 2 feet and say, "I don't need anybody. I am the man. You know, I'm going to forge a life for myself," and just prop them up again. You know.
It's true, because it's like that. It's like that almost all over the world. I mean, if you don't have a certain status, or if you don't have a certain amount of material wealth, if you don't have like a house or making a certain amount of money, then you're made to feel useless. I mean, I've said this. I mean, Gomez put it in a really good way. I think Gomez should make a video about it. He says, you know, I don't need anybody's validation for the right to exist. And I think quite often, as men, we're not. I mean, women, it's like just because they have this reproductive ability, they're given automatic value. But men generally, they're saying, well, if you're not doing or working for anybody, or if you don't have anything, then you're worthless, you're useless. And that's just not true, guys. That's not true. You're just as valuable, if not more valuable, than any woman. So don't let anyone tell you. Shoot. I think he was going to say something, Misanthrope.
No, I was just agreeing with you. So.
Yeah, and I think that's one good thing that Mgtow does take on. You know, we try to give we call it autonomy. We call it masculinity, male realization. But I think that's one good thing that we do try to develop.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that is a catalyst for suicides, is loss of control and loss of autonomy. So if a man is in a suffocating marriage, and he feels like he's not the man, you know, he's not in control, he's not independent, that can also make him feel helpless. even though he's got his family around him. So we've got the advantage there over the blue pill men, where, you know, we are autonomous, we are in control, you know, and that independence stops us from feeling the helplessness that is also leading to suicidal acts and self-harming, all that sort of stuff. But
it sounds too simple, I know, but that's what suicide and depression is. It's a very mental, it's a very deep mental state, and trying to get out of that, you need to dig deep mentally, and we have to talk to them, we have to show them. Like I said, ideally, you would take this guy, and you would go and do activities, you would go and do stuff, you would go and show him, you know, show him that life, you know, that he can still enjoy life without the need of anybody else. You know, he can do things for himself.
Yeah, that's you know, the minimalistic thing that we have going in here too. We as men, like you said, I can see the value no matter how minimal a man is over. I said this to my buddy once, and he kind of freaked out because he's a little blue pill. We're driving down the road, and I seen a guy picking up cans and putting them in a bag, and then I seen a woman shopping. I says, you know which one I would hire? Yeah, I'd hire that guy picking up cans, even though it's a minimum value. I see that in every single male. It's just 10 times worth. And just being able to show that to a male sometimes, that he is not worthless. He's got so much value in this world. He's got so much to live for. And if he puts a minimalistic effort, a minimalistic Mgtow effort into it, he's going to do 10 times better than common female.
you know, that's interesting, because
there's also that.
Sorry, Z. A very quick point, slightly off topic, but it does relate. I saw a video, and he said about homeless men, and he said the percentages of homeless men are due to the fact that they're at the lower end of the scale of intelligence. And I thought, oh wow, you've just insulted ex-servicemen, men who are capable, men who've run businesses, who've lost their family and their homes, and they've just been downtrodden to the point where they're failing to launch again. You know, but those men are capable. They are capable. If someone would just stand them up.
Revisionism? Is that not revisionism to even suggest that we're less intelligent? Who have always been the forefronters, the inventors, and the innovators? Like, to take that away from us is abject hatred. It's absolutely counterproductive, even for the feminist argument. It's retarded.
Well, and to add to that, you see, this is where feminists, you know, are pumping the message: maleness, violence. They never consider the other aspect about inventiveness and creativity. It's always the focus on men are violent. That's the meme. Right. That's what they want to pump out. And that's what
here's the thing: we created poetry for women. We created a whole genre to honor and venerate women. And you know what? And now it's used in memes and pop culture and songs to no end. We created that, and yet that's ignored. We created poetry.
But how do they thank us? They spread rumors, and it's so damaging that men can't even multitask. That's how useless we are, and it sounds trivial, but I mean that is a common saying now. Men can't multitask.
How? I think everyone here is disproving that. Because I'm sitting here, I'm disproving it right now. I'm sitting here, I'm doing that. I'm doing some independent research here.
Do you see the links between making men feel worthless to the point where they start to believe it, and then when they start to believe that they're worthless and incapable, then they fail, and then when they fail, they become helpless, and they've got this thing in their mind where someone's always said, "You're useless. You can't even multitask." And it's so damaging. But the message is coming from everywhere, you know, and they're grinding these men into the dust. And when a man does finally, you know, have the rug pulled, or the law, he feels the full weight of the law, and he comes out of prison, he's got nothing. He's then got this negativity as well. He can't even say to himself, you know, I'm the man, I can get over this. He just says, well, everyone's told me I'm a useless piece of shit all my life, so I guess this proves it. You know, I'm sitting in under a bridge with no fucking possessions, no money, and everyone was right. But this is where we step in and we say, what the fuck are you doing down there, you know? Come and, you know, come and sort yourself out. There's plenty of people here who are going to help you, you know? What did you used to do? Really, you were a truck driver. Oh, you were a carpenter. I bet you were a good carpenter. You know, I bet you worked hard. I bet you're a good man. I bet you know how to earn money. And you got a good work ethic. And build him up again. Build him up again, because everyone's taken a giant shit on that man. You know, that's what we've got to do with men. Motivate them.
Yeah, we do. And that's interesting. I told you I worked in a house. We used to have a house in this area until the funding was pulled, and it was generally 15 men in the house at all times. You know what? The immediate thing that I noticed with those men after taking the induction, after doing the paperwork for them, was we had a dentist, we had 2 engineers, we had several machinists, we had guys with real talent that were living homeless that had just given up.
Yeah.
It wasn't like people say. These guys, the minimal degree that most of them had was 2 years. You know, they all had something going for them up to a point where they broke, up to a point where they said, no, I'm not going to deal in this society anymore. I'm going Galt, and this was my way of going. And that's what they were saying. My way of going Galt was just to be homeless and just to deal with life that way.
You know, you just sparked something very interesting there, Joe. With all the effort and energy that everybody puts into talking about women, why can we not talk, okay, about how to figure out ways to help men overcome
Fucking A. Fucking A.
Let's just talk about men. Yeah,
you know, I think that's more important. This is the key. We've talked enough about women, and the conversation's still going to carry on. It always will. It seems to be a foundation. But can we not talk about fucking how to help a man? And I think we're it. We have that opportunity as a community, so to speak.
Yeah, where to go to.
But it's interesting,
you know,
because
like what we're doing.
The reason why we keep talking about it, it's so weird. It's metaphysical. It's biological. You know, however you want to put it, we do have to step away from talking about women, because that's our contrast point. There's a yin and yang in there without refute, but yet we have to separate and figure out what the yin is. What are we as men? What does that mean without them, without the woman? It doesn't mean to hate them, but we need to define ourselves amongst ourselves.
Yeah, they automatically try to shame us into perceiving that, you know, we're being misandric, and that's the purpose of misandry, or us being. They already have this go-to shaming word that shame us away from talking about men and how we can go and how we can proceed in this life. If they don't have something to gain from it, and it's so selfish of women most of the time. They cannot see that. Beyond that, if they don't have something to gain from you, you're worthless. No, that's not true. We don't have to be that way. You know, I'm done with that. I'm a worthful. My worth is great. I see that it's sort of a bride price for myself. If I put on this bride price on myself as $500,000, if that woman doesn't come near close to that, then she's not worth having in my life. And it's not me that's failing. It's women that are failing. So, you know, every man, most men have great value in this society. All of us do.
Beyond utility.
Yeah, beyond what the perception of what some female sees out there, and it's not important about it. That's why I have the rule: no F word in here, and that's not the F word you think about. You know, it's the female word. No, we don't talk about females in here.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I like to see guys rise up. I like to see guys open their minds a bit and fall out of the gynocentric teaching that they've had their entire lives. It would be nice if we could indoctrinate boys into knowing that their value it isn't just on how they can serve other people. Yeah, it's good. It's nice to be needed, to be wanted. But there's going to come a time when people are going to see you as you know, as useless, and that's the time I think you need to find really your own self value, and
But
that
you
I'd
know
like
what,
to.
Shining? That it is such a myth. Everybody thinks that the alternative to being autonomous or living in solitude is living with a woman and being wanted and respected, but I've never known it. I've never known a woman even care if I've eaten that day. They don't care where you sleep. They don't care if you feel unloved or disrespected. You're not going to find that because it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. Not in this generation. Maybe in generations past, but that thing about affection and intimacy and closeness, it isn't there anyway. So it's not something we're missing out on because it's just not an option. It's not available. So we may as well just give up on that fantasy. And that's exactly what it is. It doesn't exist. It's not real. You would like it to exist because it's comforting to think about it. But the
Well,
truth of the matter is, the reality of that situation is abuse, abuse, and more abuse.
And as a result, and it ends up in enslavement, a life
oh,
of
until you want to kill yourself.
absolute.
Until you
Yeah.
want to fucking kill yourself. Once she's ground you down and taken everything,
Yeah.
I know we don't want to talk about women, but that's exactly how, you know, one of the main catalysts for suicide, and at least we're away from that danger, away from all that abuse.
maybe that's why depression and suicide is so high amongst men these days, because the dynamics of the husband, wife, the boyfriend, girlfriend relationship. I was speaking to my friend. He was saying how fearful he is. He's a very young guy. He's 24 or something. He's married with 2 kids. I think the third one on the way. He says he's very fearful of upsetting his wife in case she, you know, shoots him with a silver bullet. You know, it's an urban nightmare. It's an urban nightmare. No, you know, it's all underlying married men and even men in long-term relationships have. And I'm sorry, guys, if you're in a long-term relationship, you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire. You're hoping she's not going to do a big shit on you. You're hoping she's not going to pull that trigger. And guys, any guy that's been in a long-term relationship with any woman knows that she can lose her temper, and it takes one moment for her to lose her temper and to make that phone call, or for her to tell someone else to make that phone call, and thereafter is the descending moment of your life.
Yeah. All too often, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you know, maybe one time, like you said, maybe one time it wasn't like that. But these days, women are given the women are literally given all the authority in the house. It's no longer men in charge. It's no longer ask daddy, or it's no longer, oh, speak to the man of the house. It's now the house clown with the bitch of the house. Go speak to the bitch. You know, go ask her permission. Have I got a permission to do this? No, I haven't. I can't do it. Can I wear this? I can't. It's totally upside down, and you know, it's not natural. I'm saying it's not natural, and that's why guys, and I think women are unhappy as well, because if you talk to women, you know, they want like a man who's in control, a man who's strong and authoritative. But when he does that,
This is why we need to stop trying to figure them out, because it's a broken model when it doesn't work, and it's in a man's nature. We're all like this, aren't we? If something's broken, we're desperate to try and fix it. We want to know how it works. We want to know why it isn't working, and we will, you know, we'll be there forever scratching our heads trying to make this thing work.
Sure.
That's why we've got to say, women, marriage, that is broken. There's a few parts missing there. We're never going to fix that one. Step away from that. That's done.
But
that is done. Like Joe says, it's done.
It's a broken system that gets convoluted and convoluted as the days go on. That's the problem. I don't see any fix for this current relationship, and it's, you know, and we're seeing evidence of this worldwide. I watched a show in Spanish, okay, where they're talking about false allegations, right, for a whole half hour, and it got heated. Mind you, it was in Spanish and translated, but hey, it's being felt there, and their reaction is very strong. And there are guys in Spain right now reaching out, you know, to the Mgtow community.
And India as well.
Universal as well. So, you know, and this speaks volumes in itself. How can guys at different parts of the world, speaking different languages and different cultures, talk about the same fucking thing? Okay? That's enough right there.
Something very, very wrong is happening. Something very rotten to the core is going on with society. and we as men are only just about, we as Mgtow are only just about touching upon it.
Oh, we've scratched the surface and then some, okay? But more would be revealed, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I honestly can't wait until we see more.
You know, keep in mind, us guys here online, we're just a drop in the bucket, okay? Lest we not forget, okay? We're just a drop in the bucket, you know, guys who are active live right now, okay? Compared to the sleeping giant that we're sitting on, okay? And we see it every. Just look at how many new guys join in a week, right? Who put out their first Mgtow video. There's proof right there. We're doing something, that's for sure.
Yeah, we seem to lose one and gain three. You know,
Yeah.
it's a great building process, and never forget. There's always guys out there to reach out to. It's not just. It's most of the time is they just haven't heard about Mgtow yet. And when they come, they're going to get that automatic block where you know what they're going to say. You guys are gay. You don't like girls. You guys are this. Or you guys are that. You guys are just
Losers.
feminist.
Yeah,
you losers.
You guys are birth control.
Yeah, yes, yeah, the birth control thing that there's some conspiracy that the government put this together. That's bull. We have to break through that. We have to, we've got to get we got to find ways to break through to these guys because they're going to go kicking and screaming out of that blue pill. You know, the Matrix is very, very appealing. It works for them. They're going to go kicking and screaming, but once they see how much easier Mgtow is and how much more life fulfilling it is when you start living for yourself rather than everybody else and living, building your life. What is it? Edmond Dantes just said he wants to build an empire. He wants to engineer an empire before him. If there's these things these barriers, these female barriers in front of us,
knock them down.
Knock them down. Yeah, get rid of them. Cut those strings because that's your purpose in life, to build that empire. Yeah. Okay. We got that awkward moment of silence.
Well, I can talk about the other weeks. Oh, we got a little bit of echo.
Do we have an echo here? Was that me? Let me.
It is Joe. Guilty. Yeah, well, the new the new man-spreading film is coming out, Suffragettes. It's not really about man-spreading, by the way, guys.
Oh yeah, I looked at the trailer for that, and I was thinking like, what? Why are they just They're just beating everything, and from what I can tell, just entirely unprovoked.
Yeah, they're flogging a dead
horse.
What
is the problem?
They're trying to keep this misandry floating because let's face it, it's for them it's a losing battle. It's going downhill. Yeah. It's going downhill. More
I
men.
watched the trailer and there's one line. It said, "War is the only language men understand." They're the ones attacking people. The men aren't doing anything back, so it's not war.
It's not
it's
war.
Just a one-sided attack.
Yeah, not normally when they attack men, they actually the things they're referring to is government. And let's face it, government is not particularly representative of men at all. If that's one thing we know.
No, they're not.
You just started. Your voice got really weird.
Yeah, that was Joe speaking. That wasn't me.
Oh, okay.
And of course, the Creed film is coming out, guys. But the next Rocky film, and Apollo Creed's son is taught to box by Rocky.
Okay.
And they're remaking the film Point Break and Jungle Book, and the remake of Poltergeist has just come out.
Oh yes, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't make a remake of Blade Runner. That's one movie that cannot be remade.
Oh, did you see what happened to that woman? Shawn, I think her name is Shawn something.
Shawn, yeah.
Yeah, have you seen her? Recently?
No, what happened?
Talk about hitting the wall, man. Ooh, she looks like a totally different woman.
Oh, she must be in her 60s now.
I pinned up a picture of her, Oh, she's still they're still using her as like a sex symbol in her last. She was in that fan-made Star Trek thing, and she has like a romantic thing with the Doctor, and oof, this seems like a totally different woman. I pinned up a picture of her on my alerts, and guys, you won't believe it's her.
Really? Do you have a link? That'd be interesting because I'm a huge.
Wait, who is that? I'll just Google it.
Yeah, see, check her new thingy out.
Are you talking about the woman that lost her mind trying to get the Batman part? When the Batman, I'm pretty sure that's who you're talking about. That woman who, back when the Batman franchise started in the movies, she was, I don't know, trying out for Catwoman or something like that, and she dressed up like Catwoman and showed up to the building and tried to like scale up the building or something like. She was, yeah, that is Sean Young, and she tried to invade the building where they were doing the auditions like Catwoman would. Something like that.
Yeah, I've heard she did a few stunts, and she tried to get into this Hollywood party, and she got kicked out.
Yeah.
Because, poor woman. Oh, on another note for crazy women, I don't know if you guys are Star Trek fans, but the woman who played Kess, I don't know what her name is, but she's been in the news lately for flashing. She was quite. I'm telling you guys, she was quite a sex symbol. She was a sexy little kitten on Star Trek Voyager, and she's got mugshots where she was arrested for flashing some
Hmm.
teenagers. Apparently she got her boobs out, and I'm telling you guys, there's another one that's hit the wall there.
Wait, why would she just walk up to teenagers and flash them? I don't understand the logic behind that. If you're gonna do something stupid and illegal, make it something you can get away with. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, where no one's involved, where no one's looking, where there's no people.
Yeah.
Remember, guys, it's only illegal if you get caught.
Exactly. But don't tell that to my blue pill friend, because he's very pro cop and he doesn't. Bleh.
Oh shit.
So I just don't tell him stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and of course in the Mgtow news, Mgtow.com is now multilingual, guys. Multilingual. So spread it to all your non-English speaking friends if you have any. Oh look, there it is. I found it.
And everyone knows that Captain Picard is the best captain.
Oh wow.
I agree, 100%.
Well, I mean,
To hell with Captain Kirk and that black captain. He doesn't count. And then there's
Cisco
that female
and
captain,
Janeway.
she doesn't count. Yeah, who cares about those other captains?
Oh, the worst one is the Enterprise one. What's his name?
Oh,
Archer.
oh, I just
Cooler.
clicked the link. Oh, I'm closing that tab. Oh, I did not need to do that.
Yeah. Well, what's been happening in your weeks, guys? Any new videos that you guys are checking out? What about you, Heartburn? I mean, what channels are you watching these days?
Alex on Life is the one that's got me working lately.
Oh, you like him?
Yeah, he's tough, man. He's tough. He doesn't show any mercy. He just hits you right between the eyes.
Yeah.
I appreciate that about him.
Yeah. What about you, Mass Mgtow? I mean, on this other side of the spectrum, I mean, what channels do you enjoy? Let's give them a shout out right here.
You know what? I'm just gonna read through subscriber lists.
Go on, okay, you go ahead.
Alright, give it a couple seconds to load. I've got Sandman, Canadian Mgtow, Mayor of Mgtown, Turnfling Monkey, Dark Knight, Black Gnostic Speaks, Zeta, Sargon of Akkad, Raging Golden Eagle, and I'm still finding other channels that I watch. So
Disappointed with how come I wasn't in there? How come Messenger wasn't in there? Why wasn't Traversable? Why wasn't Traversable in there? That's not good.
Okay, guys, we're going to start wrapping this up so we can get some final comments, and I'll give each guy around the room, and then we'll just kind of go into a circular pattern. Who wants to start that?
Well, I'll start by saying just thanking everybody for showing up today. The topic was obviously we discussed male suicide. When we started the podcast, this podcast on Sundays, that was our very first subject, by the way.
Yes,
And we
it
had
was.
Turkman join in. We had a whole slew, Nico and Dark Knight. You were there too as well, Shining. I think you too, Messenger. So I'd like to. I'm going to post that if anybody is interested about. And I think it was like a 5-hour discussion we had on male suicide. So if anybody wants, I'm going to post that if anybody is interested. So that's my 2 cents there.
Well, I'll go next then. I just want to reiterate what I said. And guys, if you've got a friend and he's feeling down, I mean, I know sometimes it can be annoying, but you might be the last person that person speaks to. And trust me, it's going to be a heavy thing to live with, that the last person your friend or your relative spoke to was you. Sometimes all they want is someone to talk to. That's all they want sometimes. And sometimes all it means is just replying to that message. Just reply to them. That's it. That's all I want to say. Yeah, go on, guys. Next. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to co-sign what Shining said. Talking to them and just trying to be their friend. And all I can do is use my own experience.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Mass
I think.
Yeah, let me just jump in and say I apologize, guys, for not being here for the whole show. I know I'm sporadic in my ability to join here on Sunday mornings, but I really value the conversation.
Thanks, man. Thanks for your input.
And that leads nicely on to what I was going to say. What we're doing here, just speaking to each other. How often do men get a chance to do this? And the same as Heartburn, I joined late, but I did listen to a lot of the beginning part, and men have been, separated. There are no male spaces. We can't just come and chat, and you don't have to talk about your problems. Talk about things you like doing, interests and hobbies. And if anyone wants to talk about their troubles, then rather than the way men used to be and they say, oh, stop being a girl, now at least we know to say, oh, well, what you want to shoot yourself? What's made you feel like that? And just be honest about it. Say, look, why do you feel like that? And if you can get that out of them, then you can get past the nasty subject of how they're going to do it. And just say to them, okay, well, it's not that bad, can I help you? Is there anything I can do to help? If not, make some phone calls for them, or just do something, just to give them a little nudge in the right direction. So, yeah, we don't have to be nursemaids or counsellors, but we can help them, and we can just let them know that they're not alone. That's the main thing. They're not on their own.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep. My last thoughts would be, if men or male is aggressive, let's be aggressive toward helping our brothers.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Suicide doesn't have to be a silent epidemic. We can talk about it. It doesn't have to have these high incidences, these social contributions by other people. We can come here and Mgtow. We can show empathy. We can start a little research. There's things we can do to make this thing better. We don't need to be blaming it on men to say it's reluctant. They're reluctant to save their lives. The only reluctance I see is that they have nowhere to go. They're reluctant to go down that bridge to nowhere. We can provide this for people, and we can provide a public awareness and start this empathy towards men. We can start some funding. We can stop blaming men for these and give them a place to go and really, really save their own life, because no one's going to do it for them. And we can provide a little spark to help each one of those men out. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. I'd like to thank everybody for their valued opinions. And unless somebody wants to say something else, I'm going to end the broadcast on that.